Hello and welcome to Quest Recapped. Today we'll be going through the 2017 American animated movie, Coco. The movie begins in Mexico when a young boy named Miguel Rivera tells a story about why his family is cursed. His great-great-grandmother, Mama Imelda, was the wife of a talented musician who used to sing songs and dance around the town. However, one day he left his wife and young daughter, Coco, to pursue his musical career and build a name for himself. Mama Imelda was obviously devastated, but she pulled herself together and began to learn how to make shoes. This soon became their family business, and Imelda, not wanting to be taken down, banned music from her family forever. In the present, 12-year-old Miguel lives with his parents, aunts, and uncles, grandma and his great-grandma, and his great-grandma Mama Coco, who is Imelda's daughter. The family is still in the shoe business, and they absolutely despise music, which is forbidden in their home. Despite this, Miguel loves music and secretly wishes to be a musician like his idol, the latte Ernesto de la Cruz. Ernesto was a well-known singer who achieved his dream by starting from nothing. But one day, while singing at a music festival, a massive bell collapsed on him and killed him. Miguel visits Ernest's grave occasionally and admires his photo and guitar. One afternoon, Miguel is polishing a mariachi player's shoe while telling him about his life story. The man then informs him that there will be a music competition in town that evening, giving Miguel a chance to show his talent to everyone. Miguel insists he isn't a good performer and has never performed anything, but the man lends him his guitar to give it a go. Suddenly, Miguel's grandma appears and fights with the man for encouraging him to play music. As the Day of the Dead festival approaches, there is a distinct excitement in the air. Everyone in the town is preparing to honor their dead loved ones with adorned home altars, candles, snacks, and flowers. Meanwhile, Miguel's street dog, Dante, visits Ofrenda, the place where the family leaves offerings for their ancestors. Miguel tries to drag Dante away, and they accidentally break the photo of Mama Imelda with a little Coco, as well as Imelda's husband, whose face is ripped out. Miguel picks up the picture and notices that it is folded. The man in the picture is clutching Ernesto's guitar, causing Miguel to believe he is Ernesto's great-great-grandson. Now Miguel becomes overjoyed and climbs the house's roof, shouting that Ernesto is his ancestor, and he then declares that he wants to be a musician like him, but his family is furious. He tells them he doesn't want to be a shoemaker, but his grandmother ends up smashing his guitar. Furious by this, Miguel then breaks into tears and declares that he doesn't want to be part of this family. He runs into town and tries to compete in the event, but sadly, he doesn't have his own instrument. Following that, Miguel approaches a bunch of people asking for a guitar, but no one is willing to help him. After some thought, he sneaks into Ernesto's tomb and tries to steal his guitar. A light glows as soon as he begins to play some chords. Outside, the guards notice that the instrument is missing. Miguel tries to explain the situation, but the guards walk right through him and he realizes he is no longer visible. He then rushes outside, passing everyone but Dante, who can see him. Just then, he stumbles into an open grave by accident and is rescued by a skeleton woman. At this point, Miguel sees his dead relatives, who have come to visit the land of the living. Miguel's family is horrified to see him with a guitar and chastises him for his actions. They then hear that Imelda has been having difficulty crossing the bridge to the world of the living, so they decide to take Miguel to the land of the dead to solve the problem. They then cross a flower bridge, and Miguel is startled to see a world where real spirit animals accompany souls on their journey. Meanwhile, we see a skeleton named Hector trying to cross the bridge dressed as Frida Kahlo. However, because no one has put his photo in their ofrenda, he cannot pass. He tries to flee, but he is unable to go across the bridge and is dragged back by security officers. Later, the Riveras find Imelda angrily trying to figure out why she can't cross. They meet with a clerk and they find out that Miguel took Imelda's image from the ofrenda, which is why she is unable to cross over. Also, Miguel must be returned to the land of the living by sunrise, or he will become one of the dead. Fortunately, the curse from the Riveras that brought him here can be lifted with the blessing of a family member. Imelda then takes a flower petal and blesses Miguel, asking him to return on the condition that he never plays music again. Miguel hesitantly agrees and touches the petal, which transports him to Ernesto's tomb. He gets the guitar again and runs off to play, which instantly takes him back to the land of the dead. He then asks the family members to give him blessings without condition, but no one comes forward. Therefore, he decides to look for the blessing of his great-great-grandfather, Ernesto. As he takes Dante and runs with him, Imelda calls her spirit animal, Pepita, to find Miguel and bring him back. A while later, Miguel comes across Hector, who claims Ernesto is his friend and offers Miguel help in finding him. In exchange, Hector requests that Miguel take his photo and place it in the ofrenda so that he may cross over. To make the plan work, Hector paints Miguel's face to seem like a skeleton. He then reveals that Ernesto always puts on a sunrise spectacular event and that there is a competition for the best musician to meet Ernesto. However, because Miguel requires a guitar for the event, Hector reluctantly reveals he knows someone. Now, Hector takes Miguel to meet Chicharon, a friend of Hector's who used to be a singer. Chicharon is fading away and is unable to budge from his hammock. Hector then asks him for his guitar, but Chicharon insists he performs a song first. So he plays Chicharon's favorite song, before he vanishes into thin air. Hector informs Miguel that this is the final death, as no one in the living world remembers Chicharon. Just then, Miguel discovers that Hector is also at risk of being forgotten by the living, so he wants Miguel to place his picture in ofrenda, so that Hector might visit his daughter one final time before she forgets him. They soon arrive at the event, but Miguel is nervous because he has never performed before. Hector, on the other hand, calms him down and sends Miguel to the stage. Soon after, Miguel gives a stunning performance, and Hector joins him. The crowd absolutely adores them, but Miguel's family approaches nearby, so he runs away. It is announced on the stage that there is a living boy present and that his family is searching for him. Hector is now enraged since Miguel lied to him about Ernesto being his only relative and that he could have placed his photo up sooner. But Miguel runs off to Ernesto's plaza himself and ditches Hector and Dante. When Miguel is trapped by Imelda and Pepita, he says he won't accept her blessing if she won't let him do something he loves deeply, and she doesn't understand how it is to be a musician. However, she proves him wrong by singing in a beautiful voice. She tells Miguel that she used to adore music, and that when her husband played, it was all she needed. But once they had Coco, their daughter took priority over music. Imelda tries to convince Miguel to return, but he refuses and flees, believing that his family will never support his passion. Afterward, Miguel tries to enter Ernesto's party, but he does not have a ticket. So he approaches the winning band and asks for their help. He then disguises himself as one of them and enters the party. Once inside, he searches for Ernesto, but is unable to spot him due to the large crowd. Miguel then rises to the top and sings a song that captures everyone's attention, but he falls into the water by accident during his performance, and Ernesto appears to save him just in time. Now, Miguel introduces himself to Ernesto and explains why he's there. Ernesto warmly greets him as his great-great-grandson and even introduces him to the crowd. The two bond at the party and play together, but just as Ernesto is ready to offer him his blessing, Hector shows up. He confronts Miguel, feeling betrayed that he has broken their agreement. It is then revealed that Hector and Ernesto are acquainted because they used to perform together. Ernesto claims he lost Hector and that he would have moved heaven and earth to find him. Miguel notices that it sounds like a monologue from one of Ernesto's films, in which the villain tries to poison the hero. In a flashback, we learn that Hector wanted to give up music to go back to his family, but Ernesto wanted to keep it continuing, so he handed Hector a poison drink, and after it murdered him, Ernesto stole all the music Hector wrote and claimed credit for it. Ernesto can't risk letting Miguel free now that his secret has been discovered, so he orders Miguel and Hector to be thrown in a pit. Later, in the pit, Miguel expresses guilt for abandoning his family and idolizing a murderer. Soon after, Hector begins to fade and informs Miguel that Coco is beginning to forget him. Hearing Coco's name alarms Miguel, and it turns out that his great-great-grandfather is actually Hector. Now Hector will disappear if Coco dies, as she is the only living relative who remembers him. He also tells Miguel that he wrote the song called "Remember Me Only for Coco, Not the World." And moments later, Dante and Pepita arrive with Imelda, and they pull Miguel and Hector out. Once they're out in the open, Imelda is still furious at Hector for abandoning his family. Miguel then tries to explain that Hector wanted to return to his family, but was murdered by Ernesto. However, she still doesn't forgive him, but agrees to help Miguel. The family is about to send Miguel home, but he wants to find Ernesto and get the photo of Hector so he can place it in ofrenda. The family then gets into Ernesto's show and tracks him backstage. They fight with Ernesto's security officers, and Imelda eventually takes the picture, but she is taken upstairs to the stage. Meanwhile, Ernesto enters the stage and declares that Imelda will perform the song. Imelda is terrified of everyone and remains silent for a long time, unsure of what to do. Hector and Miguel, on the other hand, encourage her, and she eventually gives a wonderful performance. Ernesto then appears and tries to take the photo while pretending to dance. However, she somehow manages to escape and return to her family. Soon after, Imelda begins blessing Miguel without any conditions and urges him to return home. But just as Miguel is ready to touch the pedal, Ernesto appears and claims that if Miguel returns, his reputation will be ruined. He then grabs Miguel and drags him to the roof's edge. Miguel's aunt turns the camera on where Ernesto is trying to murder Miguel while confessing to being a fraud who murdered his best friend. He tosses Miguel off the roof, causing him to lose Hector's photograph, but Pepita swoops down and saves him. Ernesto returns to the stage expecting acclaim, but the audience has seen everything, so they turn against him. Just then, Pepita appears and drags Ernesto away, tossing him into a tower where a bell falls on him. Meanwhile, the sun begins to rise, but Miguel has lost Hector's photograph when being tossed from the roof. He is disappointed that he cannot keep his promise to Hector, but the family requests that he return home as soon as possible. Imelda then blesses him once again and sends him back. At this point, Miguel has returned to the tomb, and he grabs the guitar and hurries to find Coco. He tries to get her to remember anything about her father, but she fails to recall anything. As his last option, he picks a guitar and plays "Remember Me," which begins to restore Coco's memories. The rest of the family notices this, and his grandmother also breaks into tears. Coco then pulls out the picture of Hector that was ripped from the ofrenda. She also brings out letters and lyrics he wrote for her, which she has saved throughout the years. Miguel then places Hector's image on the ofrenda, stopping him from fading away in the afterlife. The scene then shifts to a year later, when it is once again the Day of the Dead. Coco has passed away and her photo has been placed in the ofrenda. Miguel has a new baby sister, and he tells her about his family. Coco's letters from Hector reveal that Ernesto stole his songs, allowing Hector to be acknowledged in Ernesto's place. In the land of the dead, we see Hector and Imelda crossing the bridge with Coco. The film concludes with Miguel's ancestors arriving to see him performing a song and making his entire family proud. We have come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Kindly like, subscribe, and share this video. If you also have thoughts you intend to share, kindly leave them in the comments section. See you in the next video.